record on. All right. Hello. Welcome to our video. You're watching our Nouvel Esprit video series on theology of the body. And in this video, we are focusing on the third audience. Now, Guillermo, there was something you wanted to say, an observation you wanted to make.
Yes, about the two accounts of creation, I was tempted to go on a tangent on our last episode into the second one, but we'll go ahead and segue into the second account here because JP2 addresses it in the third audience of the theology of the body. And what I wanted to emphasize is the fact that here is where man has that not comes to the terms. I can't quite explain. I think this is where we look at human conscience for the first time
Yep.
because the man realizes, yes, he is, in a manner of speaking, of this world. He is a part of this world, but his acknowledgement shows him that he is meant for more, or that his destiny isn't like that of the rest of creation. Not quite, not exactly, especially with his relationship with God, but in his both corporal and spiritual being, that just helps him to acknowledge the reality.
Right. That's a very good point. I do believe you wanted to make a second point as well, just concerning the theology of body in general. For, if you recall, we were just talking about this at another point, how it seemed like theology of
Oh,
body is, I think you were saying something like a commentary.
yeah, no, yes, absolutely. That, yes, and when it comes to the theology of the body, we hear about it, and we hear about how it's just the antidote to modernity in the sense of it gives us the answers to a lot of life's questions, and life's questions are about love. We kind of just jump to wanting to hear about theology of the body or theology of the body related sources in terms of chastity, in terms of the church's teaching on sexuality. It's good news. It is all good news. But well, I wouldn't even say but. It's just that we can't address the theology of the body without addressing the Bible, without addressing philosophy, without addressing other topics, but above all, the Bible. And you, Jeremy, you use the word commentary, that the theology of the body, it's a commentary on the Bible, specifically about why we are embodied spirits. You didn't say that last bit, but
Yeah.
building off of what you said, I just wanted to share there's parts of the Bible that talk about why we are embodied spirits, why we are spirit and body. The theology of the body is a commentary on those passages that touch on those topics, that topic.
We could say then it's a philosophical commentary, right? We're looking at the philosophy of who is man. We're
Okay,
looking at
yes.
the theology of who is man. So you said it's a theological commentary as well.
Yep.
The theology of the body is really this weird blend of philosophy, theology, and biblical scholarship, as we saw in the previous audience concerning the documentary hypothesis. And in fact, we'll see some biblical scholarship show up here as well in a different context.
May I share something?
Yeah, of
I
course.
do also recall JP2 describing the theology of the body, or his endeavor of the theology of the body, as an adequate anthropology.
Yeah, yeah. One interesting thing to note is, I think part of, just to go off on another tangent for a moment,
Mhm.
part of the intention, I believe, with the theology of the body is to develop the anthropological vision of who is man, according to Vatican II.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at his main philosophical work, the it's called Person and Act, or The Acting Person, depending on which translation. Those are now two English translations of that book. That book was meant to be kind of the philosophical foundation for the teachings found in Gaudium et Spes. I believe a lot of that same inspiration made its way into this book, the theology of the body. In fact, we will find out later how much of an inspiration Vatican II is on the theology of the body. Um, any other preliminary comments before we dive into this text?
Nope.
Okay. So to kind of review for a moment, in the first audience, Jesus introduced, or JP2 introduces us to the words of Jesus in Matthew 19, where he is talking with the Pharisees about divorce. Jesus referred to us to the beginning, to the divine law, and he cited Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And in the second audience, we looked at Genesis 1. And so now we're in Genesis 2. And as Guillermo said, one interesting thing about Genesis 2 is it's our first account of human conscience. And this gives us kind of a second look into, or a look into a second perspective. So the first creation account had this character of being cosmological. The second creation account has this character of being subjective. It talks about subjectivity, the subjectivity of man. And this word subjectivity will come up a lot. And I think for the moment, we'll just say, without developing what is meant by subjectivity, because it is something that's going to come up across the audiences and we'll have more details. For now, we'll just say it's what makes man uniquely man. They leave it cryptically out. So,
If I may just share one thing, do you think
sure.
we can say that subjectivity emphasizes that man can experience, not that other things can't, but there's just a highlight when it comes to experience and subjectivity.
Yeah, I forget which audience that is, but it's coming up in another
Okay,
one.
great.
That's why I was kind of like, well, do I really want to say anything or do I just want to wait? I think this is a case where I just want to say, let's wait.
Great.
Because, yeah, it is a word we will need to analyze more thoroughly. But this is the first time he uses it, and it's kind of just there. What does this thing mean? For now, we'll just say it's something that refers properly to man that doesn't apply to animals. And he's going to develop this idea across several audiences. So we will be going through this in glorious detail. Um, Now, one thing to note is JB2 observes that the text of Genesis 2 is archaic. It has a mythical character to it. And so, let's see here. Are some features, second creation count. We talked about conscience, archaic, mythical, it's old, it's subjective. But we need to talk about this myth. Something interesting now is myth. The word myth has a lot of different meanings in modernity. And in fact, if you look at the text in the theology of body, JP2 gives us a ridiculously long footnote that is essentially a page and a half long. And this footnote, it's footnote 4, that's a page and a half long, is just quotes of different meanings of myth. And he begins by mentioning views from the 19th century, myth being something that's not contained in reality or a product of imagination, something that's irrational. And then you get various 20th century definitions. You get some weird ones like the psychologist Jung. I put Mircea Eliade's definition that JP2 wrote up here. It, Mircea Eliade was he was a philosopher of religion. He did a lot of comparative religious studies. He was a very respected thinker. Wrote a very good book called The Sacred and Profane. He's actually not a Christian. He's a, if I recall correctly, Romanian pagan. And this is his view of myth. So JP2 wrote, Eliade discovers in myth the structure of reality that is inaccessible to rational and empirical investigation. Myth, in fact, transforms the event with respect to its category and makes one able to perceive the transcendent reality. It is not only a symbol of inner processes, but an autonomous and creative act of the human spirit by means of which revelation occurs. Now, something interesting about a lot of these definitions is the fact that, yes, I don't know, there's something that seems incredible that's being captured in myth, but myth is referring to something about objective reality and something that transcends the visible world. And JP2 is also going to quote extensively from the French philosopher Paul Ricoeur. Ricoeur was a Protestant phenomenologist. And this quote here comes from Ricoeur's book, The Conflict of Interpretations. So Ricoeur wrote, myth is something else than an explanation of the world, of history, and of destiny. Myth expresses in terms of the world, that is, of the other world, or the second world, the understanding that man has of himself in relation to the foundation and limit of his existence. It expresses in an objective language the sense that man has of his dependence on that which stands at the limit and at the origin of this world. So, something we can extrapolate from JP2's thought is, yes, there's mythic language here with Genesis 2, but it's mythic language that refers to objective reality and to truths about that reality. And so simply by saying myth, 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 you can't just wave your hands and dismiss it. There's truths that need to be extrapolated. Let's see. Did you have anything you want to add to that, Guillermo?
No, this is just this sheds light on perspectives and how we use words. And this is one that is used in the theology of the body. And yes, we have this explanation of what we mean by myth, what Pope John Paul II means by myth. And this footnote, it is long, as you said, it's very handy.
Yeah, I felt like it'd be good to spend some time here because everyone
Absolutely.
is always just confused. Oh, how do I interpret the first 5 books of Genesis or first 10 books? It seems weird. Creation 7 days. What's that all about? You know, it's just
Yeah.
modern science and faith. It's one of those classic questions that everyone asks about. That's why I wanted to spend a little bit of time by pointing out this awesome footnote. All right. Now, as we now move on into the core of the text here. So Christ's reply in Matthew 19, he cited Genesis 2. And Genesis 2, we have a shift in language. So it's in Genesis 2 that Christ will defend the unity and indissolubility of marriage. And to understand that, we got to look a little bit at language here. So in Genesis 2, chapter 2, verses 5 through 7, the word that's used to describe man is Adam. Adam means like, it's not referring to man as a male, but man as in all of humanity. Okay. I forgot to put the chapter here, but Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 through 25. In these verses, you get a language shift in the Hebrew here. Man is now described as Ish. And now I'm going to say not man, but male. I should say male is Ish and female is Isha. So the language shift is to again reaffirm what was said in Genesis 1 about the equality and unity of origin of male and female. And now we see that expressed in terms of the Hebrew language itself, Ish and Isha. If we recall, in Genesis 2, God forms woman using the rib of man. And that's why you have Isha coming out of Ish. All right. So let's continue on to our here. Oops, I double clicked again. All right. Now, Christ's appeal to the beginning, to the mystery of creation, is also appeal to a boundary experience, a boundary. So the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, God told Adam and Eve, do not eat the fruit on the tree. And what do? They eat the fruit. They're just like children. I just had this realization. My children do the same thing to me. I'll look them in the eyes. I'll tell them, don't do it. And then they do it while looking at me. And if you don't believe me, just wait till you have a toddler. They will do it. All right. So the tree of knowledge, good and evil, is a boundary between what's called original innocence and original sin. Original innocence refers to the state of man before he fell. So when Adam and Eve, when they ate of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they fell from God, they rebelled. And that's called the fall. Okay. So before man disobeyed God, he, in a sense, was outside of the knowledge of good and evil. And in terms of theology, we say he was in a state of integral nature or status naturae integre. Then after he fell, after he transgressed, he's in a state of original sin. Man finds himself within the knowledge of good and evil. This is our current state. It's a state of, we could say, historical man. And this is just referring back to theology, it said the status naturae lapsae, the state of fallen nature. Let's see. Now, Christ's appeal in Matthew 19 is appeal to the beginning, and it's a appeal to all the interlocutors, which JP2 said is not only the Pharisees, but it's also man today. And it's a call to go to this boundary and go beyond it. Right? And then just one last thing to note then is, again, Jesus in Matthew 19, he disapproved of Moses' allowance of divorce. And he does this by appealing to the divine law. This implies then that the divine law is still normative. It's still enforced today. Hmm. Did you have anything you want to add, Guillermo?
I'm just wondering if we can say that it was always in force. It's just that um, I just want to say that it was always in force. Like it was never, was it ever abrogated?
Yeah, no, it wasn't something that was, oh, it's intact one day and the next
Sure.
day.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. That is like what the Mormons do. If you look into like the polygamy, you
Oh,
start reading the Book of Mormon, like God said, nope, nope, polygamy is evil. Then it's like, oh, nope, polygamy is now good. Oh, nope, polygamy is now evil. It's like, excuse me, I'm confused now. No,
well,
it's
was there
not like
ever?
that.
Okay, it's
So
not like that. You're correct.
did you
And
want?
Christ is like, I guess, reminding his interlocutors. You know what? Moses said this, of course, because of your hardness of heart.
Exactly. That's the key
And
phrase right there.
but that hardness of heart wasn't there in the beginning. And guess what? Um, it just wasn't supposed to be there, but it's
Yeah.
there, and that's the problem.
Yeah. And then I guess to have a little bit of foreshadowing,
Yeah.
the solution is there now, right?
Yes,
Christ
yes.
is the solution.
I was refraining from saying that.
Yeah. It'll be many audiences later when we start talking about the solution.
Hmm.
In fact, I think I don't even remember how many it is. I think it's like halfway through the book.
Well, if we go back to the third audience, there's
This
a
is a third audience.
exactly. But look at the heading on paragraph 4, the
Oh yeah.
perspective of the redemption of the body,
Mm.
quoting Romans 8:23.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a good point. I'm
Yeah,
glad
so
you
it's
brought us
fitting.
back to the text.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very good to have this foreshadowing. He already gives it to us in the paragraph 4 of this third audience.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good point. That verse of Romans 8 is going to come up again, I believe, in the next audience. Just this perspective of redemption. Man is in a state of original sin. Now you have this perspective of redemption. In fact, yep,
Yes.
there it is. In fact, in the next audience is flipping through.
Yep.
Hmm. All right. Well, with that, that is the content of this audience. And what we'll have to do is examine the next audience for the next video and develop these themes more. Because now so JP2 introduced, well, we have man instead of original sin, and we have this original innocence. What's the relationship between them now? How do we relate to that now
Okay.
with today's day and age? And that's those types of questions is what JB2 is going to get to in the next audience. All right. With that, I want to say thank you for watching our video. If you've enjoyed it, please give us your money. We need your money so we can buy more books, so we can continue making awesome content for you to enjoy. And of course, also to pay for running the website. What do you see here? Please subscribe to YouTube. Check out our cool website. On our cool website is our cool podcast. Check out our cool podcast with our cool co-hosts, me and Guillermo and Charles. And let's see here. If you look at the bottom link, you can check out all of our terrible social media platforms we are on, because social media is almost a second antichrist, as we all know. So why am I recommending you to go on social media? I guess paradox.
Because it's not intrinsically evil.
That's true. It's a tool. They can
There
be
we
used for
go.
good or evil.
Yes, that is overwhelmingly used for evil.
Yeah.
But let's use it for good.
And that's why we have the video. Yay. All right.
And please
One
be sure
small
to,
step.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, please be sure to share our content.
I feel like this is going to be a meme about me forgetting to say that. All right. Anything else?
That's all. Thank you all for tuning in.
Oh, you did forget something. You didn't say God bless. I remember this thing.
Well, I was going to say that.
You were going to say that?
I
Oh.
was.
Oh, really? All right.
God bless everyone.
All right.